There can also be great differences in Islam from country to country, as a result of the tone set by the leaders on the basis of their cultural heritage. By the same token, Muslims may have given a different form to Islam in each country, as an official Islam, a state Islam, a folk Islam, a parallel Islam, a social Islam, a political Islam, or whatever else. We need perhaps not even mention that an individual's social position or the fact of being men or women can also influence the way in which believers color the Islam they confess and experience. Without claiming to give a complete list, we mentioned finally that there are also Muslims for whom Islam is more of a culture than a religious phenomenon. In the climate of the day, it is important to understand that it's incorrect and even unfair to characterize Islam as it is confessed and experienced by certain malevolent individuals or groups as the prototype of all Muslims. Islam is not a uniform monolithic whole. It is more correct to speak of Islams in the plural than of Islam in the singular. Recognition of the great variations among Muslims and the numerous differences in interpretation and opinions that are found in the various Muslim communities regarding the question of what Islam really is or should be can help prevent overly rigid judgments and views of Islam. Thus, in religious studies, it is common, following the practice of the social sciences, to consider religion as an element of culture and to approach it primarily as a human activity with a social character. It is the people who, as a group or as individuals, give form and content to the religion that they confess and experience within the social cultural context of their time and in accordance with their spiritual and material needs. Over the course of history and in changing and changed times, since the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632, Muslims have had to reflect on the question of whether, and if so, to what extent, their religion had to be brought up to date to meet the contemporary needs of the believers. In the colonial period, parts of the Muslim world that were of economic and strategic importance to Europe were occupied by colonial powers. In those places, Muslims had to determine their position with respect to various Western cultures, of which modernity was a characteristic element. Colonialism is theoretically a thing of the past, admittedly, but the effects of globalization make a determination of the position of Muslims vis-à-vis modernity perhaps even more acute than ever. What does modernity entail, and what is the opinion of Muslims about it? It is the same with modernity as with so many other concepts and ideas. Everyone thinks he understands what modernity means, without being able to explain precisely its exact significance. The dictionary defines modernity as, first, being modern. Second, something that is modern. So you still don't know anything. Under the word modern, so you have to pick your dictionary and search the word modern. So under the word modern, the same dictionary gives the definitions. First, belonging to the newer time. Secondly, contemporary, new fashioned. And thirdly, supporting critical freedom in matters of faith, free thinking. For various disciplines in the field of human and social sciences, the dictionary meanings appear to be insufficient. Although there is no consensus about the meaning and content of the concept modernity, nor about the point in time from which we may speak of modernity, what we understand by the term here is the critically engaged involvement in modernization in social areas and in modernism in cultural areas. Modernization is considered here as the process of differentiation, rationalization, individualization, and domestication that has led to such things as the development of science and technology, and to the institutionalization of such principles as constitutional forms of government, moral autonomy, secularism, democracy, human rights, and equality of man. Finally, in the theological sense, modernism is understood here as the intellectual trend that allows critical freedom in matters of belief. There is general agreement that modernity is Western in origin and content. In answering the question of how Muslims view modernity, it is very important to realize that there is a great diversity in the ways in which Muslims articulate what it means to be a Muslim. A Muslim, such as Sayyid Qutb, for example, who was considered to be one of the ideologues of Islamic fundamentalism, came to the conclusion, partially as a result of a few years stay in the United States, that Islam cannot be reconciled with the West. He resolutely dismissed modernity and everything that is related to it as a product of Western culture, which is also defined by Western culture. It would seem that the statement, Islam and modernity are incompatible, is embraced by Islamic fundamentalistic circles, in particular because of the belief that the acceptance of modernity automatically leads to Westernization. Westernization must be avoided at all costs. The rejection of modernity, however, does not exclude the fact that certain aspects of modernity in the technological field are embraced by Muslim fundamentalists. Islamic fundamentalism, however, is not endorsed by the vast majority of Muslims. Many Muslim intellectuals distance themselves resolutely from it. The historian Iftikhar Malik, who was born in 1949, distinguishes the following three positions of Muslim intellectuals as concerns their stance on modernity. The first position is the position of those Muslims who believe that Islam and modernity are incompatible. According to them, Muslims are only capable of accepting integration, democracy, pluralism, and human rights if they choose secularism. Consequently, Muslims would find themselves distanced completely from their Islamic heritage. The second position is the position of those Muslims who hold that it's only by a return to the pure Islam of Muhammad and four rightly guided caliphs that the contemporary problems and the malaise of the Muslims can be solved. The third position is the position of those Muslims who maintain that a synthesizing strategy is necessary whereby Islam can profit from the benefits of modernity.